This year, I'm moving from Spain to France with a quick 2-month stopover in Sweden. I'm currently in Sweden, so I've done half of the move already, but I do need to do the other half of the move by the end of the summer. And to say that my suitcase is full would be an understatement. I traveled here with so much gear, including my desktop computer, my freaking screen, and basically my suitcase is already about 7 or so kilos over the weight limit. But did that stop me from getting new art books? Do I know how I'm going to bring all this stuff back to France with me? Also no. So you know what, let's make the most of this and let me show you my books. Imaginative Realism by James Gurney. This book is so cool. If you don't know James Gurney yet, he is very well known. You should know him, and shame on you if you don't. I can say that because I only discovered him very recently, so no worries. But basically, James Gurney has written lots and lots of books to teach you and me how to do things in art. One of his books that I most want to get is, I think it's called Color and Light, honestly. Sounds very useful. But this one was on my list for a while already because, I mean, this looks like a fantasy painting and it's gorgeous. And yeah, imaginative realism is all about taking something that doesn't exist, something that only exists in your head, and translating it to well, I was going to say the page, maybe not the page, but translating it into a work of art. So it can also be a sculpture or something like that. What I like about this book is that it's really pleasant to read. My worry with art books a lot of the time is that it's going to be boring, and this book is not that. It's not that at all. It basically reads like James Gurney is telling you a story and is sharing something from experience. Every page is a new spread with a new topic. It's all inspired by his own work, so you see a lot of his practice sketches, a lot of his background work. On top of being really pretty, it's also very helpful to have this kind of perspective. My main takeaway from this book so far is to work a little harder. Now, what I mean by that is that James Gurney goes into the process of creating a piece, a full finished piece. Let me tell y'all, there are so many steps. There are so many more steps than I would think. Let me find an example. Okay, so this is at the very beginning of the book, and he talks about the tradition of imaginative painting. And he goes into Federico Barocci's process for creating a new painting. It's got so many steps. Just bear with. So first, he would decide on an idea by making dozens of loose sketches to establish the gestures and arrangement of the figures. Then he would make studies in charcoal or pastel from live models. So again, you need to book a model and then make some studies based on them. Cool. Next, he sculpted miniature figurines in wax or clay, each draped in tiny costumes to see how they would look under various lighting arrangements. In this step alone, there's already 5 different steps, right? 5 different skills. Then he proceeded with a compositional study in gouache or oil, considering the overall pattern of light and shade. Then he produced a full-size tonal study in pastels or charcoal and powdered gesso. He then transferred this drawing to the canvas, and before proceeding with the painting, he made small oil studies to define the color relationships. And only then did he work on the complete final painting. Yeah, this is not the typical Instagram process that I'm used to seeing, where you only see a finished piece and it's like the drawing's already there and you just see someone like quickly completing it. I feel like this book is going to give me so much perspective on what art really takes. As someone who hasn't had the chance to go to art school to get art classes, books like these are very precious because they really tell you about the whole process and not just the nice finished piece, you know. So I haven't finished reading this one yet, but I highly recommend it. It's gorgeous. If you struggle to make your ideas come to life, if you struggle to visualize them like I do, then you should definitely pick up this book because it gives you actionable steps on how to transfer your ideas into a painting or an art piece in general. And yeah, it's really motivating. The next book you need to brace yourself for because it is so pretty. Look at it. So this is Nordic Tales. The cover is incredible. It is embossed. It's got beautiful colors. It is illustrated by Ulla, Thynell, who, if you follow me anywhere, you will know I freaking love. And I'm just really excited to have picked up this book. This is a book of retellings of folk tales from Scandinavia. So Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, and Denmark. Had to read it out to not forget any country. It's got a 3-part structure. So the stories either deal in transformation, wit, or journey. I know that not everyone will think that this necessarily qualifies as an art book officially because it's a storybook. But because each tale comes with its own cover illustration, I feel like it qualifies. And also, I would argue that stories, even by themselves without any illustrations, also qualify as art inspiration, and especially when it comes to folk tales because they're very evocative and they tend to have these very striking visuals described in them. As for the illustrations in this book, they feel very tactile, very traditional. I know that the illustrator works with a lot of traditional media. She digitizes and I think adjusts some of her work if necessary, and I assume, you know, when you're working with a published book, you probably need to do that as well. One thing I really admire with Ulla Thynell's work is the colors. I don't know how to explain. The colors feel like you're stepping into a dream. It's colorful, but not childish, if that makes sense. It's not bright and happy like artwork you would make for a 6-year-old. It's got a kind of mystery and spookiness to it. It works really well with folk tales and old fairy tales because they're usually pretty spooky stories. So I don't know if I will take this book home with me because I feel like I could leave it here in this Swedish cottage and it would just belong. But I really love this book and I've been dying to get it for a long time. So yeah, so sue me. And to round this off, my third and final book is this one. Now, I can't believe I actually traveled with a hardcover book. What the hell was I thinking? Who can say? But I started getting through this book a few months ago. Don't take that as a non-recommendation. I'm always very slow with non-fiction books. It's just, there's no drive to keep me turning the page. You know, it's very interesting, but at the end of the day, I want to be entertained, and so I'll be on YouTube instead of reading my non-fiction book. But anyway, this book was written by Saltz, who's an art critic, has been for a long time. My favorite part so far was him explaining that he is a failed artist and that he tried really hard and all the reasons why it didn't work out and why he wasn't good enough to be a professional artist. I found that so interesting and so liberating in a way. Like, you can be an art lover and you can make work, but it doesn't have to be this incredible career for it to still matter and take you places, interesting places. So yeah, definitely a very strong start to this book. The rest is a collection of essays that he's published over his long art critic career. Some of them I found more interesting than others. What's fun about this book is that I'll pick it up, I'll read a new essay and discover something totally new to me. I'm not particularly well versed in the art world yet, so having someone explain things, his perspective on different works, or making references to well-known artists that I just never came across is very enriching. I always find myself Googling things. That's also why I'm taking so long to get through the book. I have to put it down, Google the work or Google the artist, and then go down the rabbit hole, and it's really enriching. So if you have any interest in art, contemporary art in any way, in what people are making and what it means and how it interacts with the world as it is, then you should pick up this book because it's got a lot of food for thought. It's difficult to find things that will really inform your practice or your thinking. So I found that books are a really good way to bridge that gap to make sure that I get nourished in a different way, and hopefully that will translate into better work in my own practice. But you know what, at the very least, it's enjoyable. That's all I have for bookish inspiration. If you need visual inspiration, then I recommend you check out this video where I talk about different artists according to the sub-aesthetic of your choice. See you later.